I started making a game. Here's some of the process. Bienvenidos, bienvenue, and welcome to Casa, Chez. After 2 months of doing Unity tutorials every day, I decided I knew just about enough to start my first small project. The goal is to make a full game from start to finish in about a month, so I need to keep it simple in terms of functionality. Since I am working on this project in my spare time, I know it might take longer, but by having a date to aim for, it should help me focus. I am aiming for releasing the game on itch.io on July 1st, but seeing how fast time flies, I might have to extend the release date. We'll see how that goes. I had a basic idea for a sci-fi top-down shooter and was inspired to write a song, so I tried out a few chiptune tools online and found Beatbox to be pretty easy to use, convenient, and great sounding. Unfortunately, I didn't think to record the early process of making the song. To flesh out the project, I started using Milanote in order to get my ideas down and collect a few sources of inspiration from games and movies. I split up the development process in phases such as concept, pre-production, production, and post-release, and then I split production further into pre-alpha, alpha, beta, gold candidate, and launch. Since I have a deadline and a bunch of things to get done, I knew I needed something like Trello to track all the tasks that needed to get done. I heard good things about Hack and Plan, so I gave it a try. I basically recreated the phases I had decided on in Milanote and transferred all to-do items to it. Once I had a good idea of what I wanted to do, I did a bit of concept art to put some of those ideas in visual form. I'm going for a pixel art style reminiscent of games from the Commodore 64 or the NES eras. To get an idea of the level design, I started making a tile set in Sprite, which I just started using recently. I was thinking of using sprites that are 16 by 16 pixels, but in order to get a bit more details and a more realistic look, I decided to go with 32 by 32 pixels instead. One thing though is that the character seems too big in comparison with the tile set, but I like the amount of details in it, so I may use the 32 by 32 pixels version of the character and resize it in-game. We'll see once it's time to import art assets into the game. Now came the time to create a prototype to test out the features of the game. I started with character movement since it's so essential. I set up a basic layout and got started on a script. Once I got the player moving, I started implementing item pickups. For now I'm going with health and salvage. I'm thinking that salvage is like the loot you collect, but maybe we can use it for fixing broken electronics on the space station like doors or computers. I needed a way to get that information on screen somehow, so I added scores for health and salvage on the HUD. As I get stuff done, I check them off in Hack and Plan, and after a game dev session, I leave a comment with what I implemented and any issue or bugs that might be present. Then I make a copy of my Unity project folder and name it with the version number. That way, should something go wrong, I can always go back to a previous version. Next came shooting. It was pretty straightforward to get it working. I had good teachers, thank you Brackies and Jason Wyman. I started the habit of making short animated GIFs of the current state of the game after a successful game dev session to post it on Twitter. You can always check out my Twitter account for news and updates about the game I'm working on. Now that we can shoot, we need something to shoot at. Also, a static target is not as exciting as a moving one, so let's make our enemy move. Doesn't always work as intended. There we go. Sure, the enemy must get dizzy from all that spinning, but we'll get to that once we have actual art assets in the project. The enemies seem to be chasing correctly and dying after being shot a few times. Now let's make them damage the player. Next, I made a door that can be opened or closed by using the E key when near it. Then I made the camera follow the player. I used Cine Machine for simplicity, but I probably could have used the regular camera with some code. Then I made it so the player dies when their health reaches 0. The death message is displayed and the player controller is disabled. I will need to implement some UI elements at some point, but for now, a simple debug message will do. Then I started working on a door that opens automatically when you or an enemy is near it. It was actually a bit harder to implement than I thought, since I have to ignore projectiles and I have to make sure that nobody is in the trigger area before closing the door. I solved this by having a counter which counts up or down when someone enters or exits the trigger area. I noticed at some point that box colliders and sprites in the game view seem to be offset from the ones in the scene view. That was really annoying. I wasn't sure what was causing the issue. I was eventually able to fix both by setting the camera to roughly the default settings. I don't know how they got changed, but it seems to be working for now. Third type of door I decided to implement is a locked door that can be unlocked with a keycard. For it, I used much of the same code as the toggle door, combined with code for the health score with a bit of modification. That will be it for this first devlog. I hope you enjoyed following the process of making my very first game. Next time I want to make a door that takes the player to the next level. That should be pretty straightforward. I will also have to start working on some menus and adding other types of enemies. I'll be working on that and more in the following videos. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it or learned something new, remember to like and subscribe, and see you in another video.